And welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed, and my friends, it's been a while. A little too long, in my opinion, since I've been doing this show. And that's because I have some good news. Well, I guess it depends on who you're asking, but I got news. News is I decided to go through with my experiment. What experiment, you might be asking? Well, if you asked the question, you didn't listen to the last show. That's okay. I'll give you the lowdown anyway. I've decided, my friends, to experiment with being in a relationship because I want to see in live time whether the biblical bachelor lifestyle works, and I want to see the other side of the story. Now, I'm going to tell you out the gate. I'm not trying to treat this woman like a guinea pig, nothing like that. It's not like that. I'm just trying to see the other side of the tracks. Because as much as I would love to say, everybody, here's what you need to do, and I can't do that if I have not experienced the other side of the story. It would be disingenuous to you, my beloved audience. It'd be disingenuous for me to sit here and say, oh, you guys, relationships are horrible, don't get in them, they're garbage, women are out to get you, blah, blah, blah. Even though I've been in semi-relationships before, I have not actually undergone a relationship like that. So, in my attempt to prove myself right or wrong, I have decided to go ahead and greenlight this experiment. Now, I want to let you guys know right ahead of time that it's going to be a little bit harder to do a lot of these shows, not because I'm not going to do it or don't want to, but because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. I'm not treating her like garbage. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I don't see a point in doing that. I wouldn't want somebody to treat me that way. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm using this experiment mainly because I want guys who are both younger and older than myself, I'm 24 years young, to understand why I wrote the book that I wrote. The reason is because I firmly believe that marriage, for the most part, is a gigantic trap for men. I think for the most part, relationships turn men into betas, as it is incredibly hard to be alpha. I've even experienced that in this relationship thus far, because you're naturally, as a man, you naturally have a desire to acquiesce. You have a desire to just make things okay, even if they are not okay. And it's one of those things that you it's like going, for those of you who play video games, I'll put it in these terms. It's like going into the boss room, you fight the boss, you use up most of your items, maybe you're low health, and then it's like you going to work and doing it with your day, and then you deal with them after you do all those things. Or if you live together, it's even more difficult. But then there's a whole other boss behind the boss you just fought. And then you're like, oh my gosh, you gotta be joking. And you have no save point. You have no idea how to refill your gear. You have no potion refills. You got no stamina potions, nothing. You're just out there and you're having to deal with the fact that now you have a whole other boss to fight. That's basically what you're doing every day. Okay? And now, not every day is gonna be bad. That's a duh. There's not every day is bad. But I have noticed in my brief experiment thus far, I have found that it's very interesting how you as a guy, you must set boundaries. You must do what you say you're going to do and not do what you say you're not going to do. Because if you don't stand on your principles, if you don't stand your ground, they'll walk all over you. Not because they're evil, but because think about it like this. You as a guy, you probably do the same thing, right? If somebody would always give you money, if you asked for it, you'd probably keep asking for money, right? Duh, of course you would. In the same way that if a woman keeps telling you, you keep telling her, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, but then you do it, guess what? You are going to get treated with disrespect because you're allowing it. These are just some of the things I've found thus far, and I'm going to continue to go into extensive detail, not because and I'm going to tell you guys straight up, I'm not trying to sabotage this relationship. I'm actually going to see if it succeeds, but most of them don't. Most relationships fail. But I'm gonna really see how this plays out. Because I work with her, I spend a lot of time with her, so it's a little more under pressure per se. And so we're gonna really we're gonna use this as an experiment to see if I was right or if I was wrong. Now, my friends, I know some of you are probably cringing. You're like, Austin, why are you doing this? You know the right answers, but you're doing this anyway. Why? Well, the reason I'm doing it is because I need to do it A, for myself, and B, I'm doing it for you. I want you to learn from my mistakes, as I've learned from other people's mistakes. Well, most of the time anyway. And that, my friends, is why I'm doing this. Because I want to be on the inside. I don't want to just take other people's word. I want to undergo it myself and see how it goes. I have firewalls in place, but I will tell you, thus far, it's been a very interesting experience. Because in my life, I've had flings, I've experienced hookup culture, all that stuff. But I have not genuinely tried to have like a long-term relationship before in my life. I just haven't. And because of that, I'm in new territory. I'm breaking new ground, as it were. And because of that, it's very interesting gathering data. I'm kind of a nerd. So I like gathering data on this type of stuff. And because of that, I encourage you to discuss how you've had a marriage or a long-term relationship, or maybe you haven't had any of the above, and you're curious how this plays out. Because you yourself maybe can't get that just yet, or maybe you just don't have the desire and you want to see somebody else put themselves on the train tracks and wait for the train to go over them. I don't know why you're listening to it or why this is resonating with you today. But what I do know is it's very important for us to undergo tests to see whether we were right or wrong with what we believe to be true. If we just live in a world where we believe ourselves to be true, we never test ourselves, then we're not doing ourselves a service. We're actively doing a disservice because we're not saying we're right because we're proving it to ourselves and to the world. We're saying we're right because we want to be right, which makes us no different than those we criticize. So we must test ourselves. We must go underneath the belief systems that we have, and we must test them. You don't have to do what I'm doing per se, but I'm testing myself in a way that I honestly never thought I would, but I'm doing it because I think this is the best choice. I'm doing it not only for content, I'm doing it because I genuinely want to see if I was right or if I was wrong. So I'll keep you guys updated on how this experiment's going on top of the other shows I have planned for the next couple weeks. But I wanted to get this out because A, I've been slacking on doing it because of the job and just dealing with this new relationship. Very time consuming, by the way. If you didn't know, relationships are very time consuming. And so just be aware of these things, gentlemen. It's one of those things that you don't truly understand until you're in it. And once you're in it, you start to understand why people say the things they say and why they do the things that they do and why so many men are blue pill and beta. You understand why? Because they're in the matrix. When you dip your fingers back into the matrix a little bit, you start to realize why people lose themselves, even if they start off red pill and they become beta. They lose their alpha mentality and become beta. You never stop being red pill, but seeing reality for what it is. Once you've seen it, you're just ignoring it if you choose not to follow it. But you are naturally going to start having beta tendencies because people are going to pressure you, number one, and you're naturally going to get whittled down if you're not careful, number two. I think it's very important for us to understand what we're dealing with and understand the dangers that are associated. So, my friends, in the coming days and weeks and months, depending on how long this relationship lasts, I have no intention of sabotaging it. We'll see what happens and we'll use it for content. I might add it into my new book I'm working on that I've been working on for a little while. I'm doing everything I can. I'm not going to be beta. I'll tell you guys about it right now. If you ever start hearing me sound beta, you got to slap me silly and tell me, Austin, you're losing yourself to the experiment. My friends, take care of yourselves. I encourage you to actively talk amongst yourselves and on this channel about what you think about this experiment, whether you think it's a horrible idea or not. I think this is incredibly necessary, and I also want to hear what you have to say, whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea. because this is one of those things that's going to polarize people. There's some people are going to think I'm crazy. Some people are going to think that this is necessary and something that could really make a difference. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Till next time, I'm out. Please feel free to leave your thoughts and comments. I'm out. Peace.